Anna Delvey.
Anna Delvey.
Anna Delvey.
Anna Delvey.
Anna Delvey.
Anna Delvey.
Chapter 1. The Heiress Arrives. When Anna Delvey showed up in New York City's glittering social scene back in 2016, she didn't just blend in, she stood out. Name-dropping elite circles like she grew up with them, walking into luxury hotels like she owned the penthouse, tipping in crisp $100 bills for things most people wouldn't even think to tip for. And those $400 eyelash extensions. That was just Tuesday for her. People couldn't quite figure out where her money came from, but no one really cared. Because in a city where money talks and status screams, Anna Delvey was saying all the right things. Some whispered her parents were Russian oil moguls. Others claimed solar energy billionaires. Diplomats? Maybe. Trust fund? Definitely. Except none of it was real. Chapter 2. The Truth About Anna. Anna Delvey wasn't even Anna Delvey. Her real name, Anna Sorokin. No European heiress, no million-dollar trust fund. Just a regular girl from Russia whose dad drives a truck in Germany. But she was magnetic, confident, and calculated, and she was about to pull off one of the most jaw-dropping scams New York had ever seen. She didn't just trick people, she infiltrated one of the most exclusive, skeptical, and status-obsessed ecosystems in the world, Manhattan's elite. She didn't have wealth, but she wore it, lived it, breathed it, and convinced everyone around her that she belonged. Her favorite hangouts. Think art gallery openings in Chelsea, weekend escapes to the surf lodge in Montauk, exclusive fitness clubs, and dinners at restaurants most folks can't get into even with a reservation, much less try ordering something not on the menu. That's the level Anna was operating at. Her name was always on the list, sometimes even before the list was made. She moved through velvet ropes like they didn't exist. Bouncers nodded before she even spoke. Hosts smiled like they were welcoming royalty. She didn't just attend events, she belonged there, at least in everyone else's eyes. People assumed she was important because everyone else treated her that way. It was a perfect feedback loop of illusion. At rooftop parties, she'd float through clusters of influencers and financiers like she'd known them since boarding school. Champagne was always in her hand, and she never poured it herself. People introduced her like she was someone who didn't need an introduction. She'd say things like, "Let's do something wild next weekend in Ibiza," and no one batted an eye. No one asked for details because no one wanted to admit they didn't already know them. That was her magic, creating just enough mystery to stay untouchable. Chapter 3. Power Moves and Designer Lies. At Barry's boot camp, she'd show up in full designer workout gear, barely break a sweat, and still somehow look like she belonged on a Vogue cover. The trainers gave her extra attention. She always tipped, and always in cash. She never carried a purse, but somehow always had a fresh $100 on hand. At brunches, she'd order the most obscure thing on the menu, and then casually ask the chef to tweak it. Not because she had dietary restrictions, but because she liked the power in it. Everyone wanted to sit at her table, but no one actually knew who invited her in the first place. She was like a ghost in couture, appearing in the background of party photos, tagged with names she barely knew. But it didn't matter. To the people watching from the outside, she was just another rich girl living her best life. Only she wasn't just living it, she was curating it. Every outfit, every location, every connection was part of the character she was building. And she played the part better than anyone else. And behind the glam, she had a master plan. Anna had her eyes on a massive piece of real estate on Park Avenue South, complete with a 19th century church. To anyone who would listen, and there were many, she described a vision that sounded half crazy, half genius. A dynamic visual arts center, a members-only foundation with high-end exhibits, curated shops, stylish restaurants, a bakery, and even a juice bar. The kind of place where the ultra-rich could feel even richer just by being there. Only thing, the property cost tens of millions. So she turned to the banks. Chapter 4. Banking on a Dream. Anna started shopping her pitch. She talked to financial consultants, banks, lawyers, and even brought on a PR team to make her vision seem official. She told them she had access to £60 million in assets overseas, just needed the right documents. And she had those documents, fake but convincing enough. She approached National Bank for a $22 million loan. They were intrigued but wanted her to cover the legal and due diligence fees, just $100,000. And guess what? She got that too. She went to Fortress Bank and said, "Look, the loan's coming, but I just need to front some of the due diligence money. When the loan goes through, I'll pay it all back." That kind of confidence, paired with a glamorous presence and some polished paperwork, worked. Fortress wired her the funds. She turned around and gave it to National. Smooth. But here's where it gets wild. She didn't just walk into those meetings, she owned them. She'd show up in tailored designer suits, blowout hair, speaking with a faint European accent that drifted between Berlin and Paris, depending on who was listening. The banks weren't just charmed, they were convinced. She presented herself as someone used to moving large amounts of money, someone who talked in millions the way most talk about cab fare. She dropped names of international bankers, luxury developers, and high-profile family offices that, on paper, made her seem bulletproof. Her documents looked legitimate. Wire confirmations, trust fund letters, statements from overseas banks. Of course, most of it was fabricated, but she spoke about them with such casual authority that nobody even thought to check. These weren't rookie frauds, these were meticulously crafted. PDFs that looked like they'd come straight out of a London investment firm's archives. Everything checked out just enough to stay believable. When Fortress agreed to give her the $100,000, it wasn't just about the paperwork, it was her demeanor. She didn't beg, she didn't act nervous. She acted like someone who was doing the bank a favor by letting them be part of her vision. It wasn't a loan, it was a collaboration. A partnership with a woman who, if you Googled hard enough, seemed to be on the brink of making history in the art world. The people in the room didn't see a grifter, they saw a visionary. Someone who was bold enough to dream big and polished enough to make it believable. She had blueprints, mood boards, PR strategy outlines. She even talked about upcoming press events for the Anna Delvey Foundation, as if launch day was already booked at the Met. Once the funds were wired, she didn't panic. She didn't celebrate. She just moved forward like it was another step in a long series of wins. The $100,000 hit her account, and she calmly funneled it to National Bank, checking another box in her fake empire's growth plan. No fanfare, no second guesses. And while National Bank began their due diligence, using that very money to investigate her finances, she kept walking through Manhattan like she already owned the place. In her mind, and maybe for a moment in theirs, she did. Chapter 5: Cracks in the Glamour. But while that was brewing in the background, Anna was already living like her fictional fortune had cleared. She checked into 11 Howard, a high-end hotel in Soho, and basically moved in. She didn't have a working credit card on file, but the staff loved her. She was charming. She was ordering from Le Coucou, the fancy French spot attached to the hotel, and charging everything to her room. The chefs at Le Coucou even made her custom off-menu dishes. Anna made luxury feel casual. She was polite, generous, and seemed endlessly wealthy. Who were they to question it? Chapter 6: The Morocco Disaster. Of course, the hotel eventually did start questioning. When they realized they had no valid payment method on file and that her bill was growing fast, they asked for a card. Anna stalled, then wired just enough to keep things from exploding. But even as she was dealing with 11 Howard, she was busy flexing elsewhere, taking a $35,000 private jet trip to Omaha, Nebraska to attend the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. Yes, that's Warren Buffett's thing. Why? Who knows? But she got there. On a jet, paid for. On an IOU. Around that time, she linked up with Rachel Williams, a photo editor at Vanity Fair. Rachel and Anna became fast friends. Anna was generous, always picking up the bill. When Anna suggested a lavish girls' trip to Morocco, Rachel didn't think twice. It was luxury from the moment they landed. 5-star resort, fancy dinners, massages, the works. But then came the issue. Once again, Anna had no working credit card. Hotel staff started asking questions. They were polite at first, thinking it was just a misunderstanding. It wasn't. Eventually, hotel staff confronted Anna and Rachel, demanding payment. That's when Anna turned to Rachel and said something like, "It's just a mix-up, can you cover it? I'll pay you back next week." Rachel was making under $60,000 a year. That trip? Over $62,000, and she ended up footing the entire bill. Back in New York, things kept unraveling. 11 Howard locked Anna out and confiscated her belongings, so she moved to the Beekman, another swanky hotel. Same playbook: no payment, high bills, charm first, panic later. The Beekman eventually booted her too. By now, the dream of that Park Avenue property was falling apart. Someone else bought it. The press started asking questions, articles popping up about a mysterious woman scamming luxury hotels. But it wasn't just reporters paying attention. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office was quietly building a case. Chapter 7: Trial by Fashion. Anna was arrested and charged with multiple felonies: grand larceny, theft of services, and falsifying documents. Prosecutors said she scammed over $275,000 from hotels, restaurants, banks, and friends. The fake checks, the forged financials, the charm. It was all part of a carefully crafted illusion. In early 2019, her trial kicked off. It wasn't a regular trial, it was a spectacle. Anna hired a stylist to plan her courtroom looks. She wore designer outfits like she was on a red carpet, not on trial. She even delayed proceedings more than once because she didn't like the clothes her legal team brought her. Her lawyer? Flashy. He opened his statement quoting Frank Sinatra. The whole thing felt less like a courtroom and more like a performance. Anna was ultimately convicted on 8 counts, including theft of services and grand larceny. But she was acquitted on 2 major charges: the attempted $22 million loan and the infamous Morocco trip. That meant Rachel never saw justice in court for the $62,000 she lost. And Anna? She was sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison, fined $24,000, and ordered to pay restitution of $200,000. But even with that sentence, the story didn't end. Anna was offered a plea deal before trial, just 1 year in jail. She turned it down. Later, she told the New York Times she wasn't sorry. In fact, she'd probably do it again. After serving time, she didn't go free. ICE picked her up and put her in detention, planning to deport her back to Germany. But that wasn't the end either. Anna had already sold the rights to her story. Netflix turned it into Inventing Anna, with Shonda Rhimes at the helm. She became the celebrity she always pretended to be. What makes her story so fascinating isn't just the scam, it's how long she kept it up, how she got away with it, how she fooled people who should have known better. Banks, hoteliers, socialites, they all believed what she wanted them to believe. Because she played the part perfectly. She knew the language, wore the right brands, had the right stories. And when things started to unravel, she didn't crumble. She doubled down. It wasn't just a con, it was performance art. There's something haunting about how easily people accepted her fiction, how easily money and confidence can open doors, and how little people question it when someone seems to have everything. In a world obsessed with status, Anna Delvey didn't just climb the social ladder, she built her own. If this story kept you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping true crime stories. And let us know in the comments, was Anna a criminal mastermind or just a product of a society that values appearance over substance? Thanks for watching.